Previously on Animorphs. Our heroes return to the barn, patting each other on the back for a job well done. However, Axe and Jake start to give each other funny looks, and a cursory rub of the ear breaks Axe into rage mode. Tackled to the ground, Axe starts clawing at Jake's ear, which in the TV universe, considering you can remove a Yeerk with a pair of tweezers, might actually work. Wait, now that I think about it. Oh god, the Yeerks have been scratching their own asses this entire time. The Animorphs separate the two, Axe calling Jake a controller. Then he sneezes. Genzute. People start speculating and debating the issue, and eventually decide on the only way to know for sure, by having Jake and Axe shake hands.
If there's a Yeerk in his brain, he'd never shake an Andalite's hand.
Says who? Well, for once, the show doesn't give the Yeerk an obvious tell, and Jake shakes Axe's morphed hand without hesitation. Of course, now his hand is encrypted to break any human code, but hey, you win some, you lose some. The Animorphs realize that this is a dumb way to figure out if someone is a controller, so they just end up tying Jake to a chair and will wait 3 days to starve out any potential Yeerk. And they're doing this in the barn instead of an abandoned shed like in the book. Do Cassie's parents never come into their own barn or what? Axe acquires Jake with intent to imitate him for the next 3 days. With a known controller living in that house, Axe has to stay focused and...
Exquisite.
Oh god, there's
These
Axe
potato
hijinks
chips
music.
are now on my top 10 food list.
Yeah, that's just what we need, Axe. An Andalite with clogged arteries.
Will there be more of these at Jake's house?
Axe, you've got to get your mind off of food, man. Human guys, we think about other things too.
Such as...
Okay? We human guys also think about sports and girls.
Okay, so food, sports, and girls.
You got it.
I'm making this
And
music
world
my
peace.
ringtone right
Only
now.
on Sundays.
Now, I'm sure realizing the idea of someone being controlled by a Yeerk in a visual form was probably a challenge for the people behind the scenes. I mean, you're basically visualizing pure thought. So the image of Jake sitting around in blue clouds is as good enough as anything. We get to hear the Yeerk's true voice, which sounds to me like Tim Curry would have sounded if he were American.
I can feel you moving through my mind.
And what a mind you have, Jake. Filled with rich, hidden places. But I'll soon find the place I'm looking for, and when I do, your friends won't be able to tie me down.
I'm just a sweet transvestite with a hamburger and a gun. Now, Shawn Ashmore has an identical twin brother who's also an actor named Aaron. Traditionally, Shawn gets all the movie roles while Aaron gets all the TV stuff. You can see Aaron Ashmore in things like Smallville and Warehouse 13. Now, Aaron is credited in this episode as Jake Double, but for some reason, there's only one very quick scene where there are 2 Jakes on screen. You'd think with the identical twin thing, you'd try and get your money's worth out of that trick, but no, not here. So here's the big question. Where is Aaron Ashmore? I think Aaron is playing Axe as Jake, but I cannot safely say that. Maybe Controller Jake is Aaron. I don't know. Maybe the scene with just 2 Jakes is the only time Aaron shows up. I really don't know. It should be noted that, however the acting duties were given out, all 3 versions of Jake, be it Normal Jake, Controller Jake, and Axe Jake, all act unique to each other, and do so pretty skillfully, so kudos on the acting. I just wish I knew exactly who to give kudos to. Anyway, we get some more of Axe hijinks with the great soundtrack, and now, a scene without context. In the barn, Jake regains momentary control of his body, and now the Animorphs know for sure that he's a controller. What follows is a carousel of the Yeerk insulting whoever's keeping watch on him in that moment. Jake learns that the Yeerk in his head used to be the one in Tom's. Rachel pretends to sleep, and controller Jake escapes, once again not killing Rachel as he leaves. I know, he wants to bring in as many Animorphs as he can alive to Visor 3, but the Yeerk is just a couple of hours away from starving to death at this point, and it can't afford Rachel waking up and sounding an alarm. This is the same issue as in the book, but it doesn't help when the TV Yeerks have been shown to be pretty damn pathetic. Still, letting controller Jake go has its advantages, as he ends up leading the Animorphs to another entrance to the Yeerk pool. Not sure why that matters, since they can just dig to it in less than 2 hours, but take whatever victories you can. So the Animorphs surround Jake and watch him as the Yeerk dies and withers out of his ear. No Krayak eye scene, of course, since the Krayak has not been properly introduced in the books yet, and just about every reader has completely forgotten about that scene by this point. Now Yeerk free, the Animorphs all meet up at the Cyber Cafe, and we get the scene that most viewers of the show say is the best moment in the entire series. Probably because it's one of the few moments the series seemed to be going for genuine emotion. Jake reflects on his experiences while Cassie tries to comfort him, and then this willowy, pseudo-Christian piano song starts in the background.
Cassie? That stuff that I said at the bar.
You didn't say anything. It was the Yeerk talking.
It's nice, but it reminds me of this.
Standing in the bookstore line, waiting for the bell to chime, so you can go to class. Dancing in your underwear, taking air conditioner repair, so you can get a job.
Clearly, this should have been the music they went with in this scene. Axe modifies a phone, and Jake, through a voice filter, calls Tom, telling the man trapped inside to keep on fighting, to not give up, that someday he'll be free. There's a brief moment where Tom momentarily regains control of his hand, and you know what, I agree, it's a pretty damn good scene, and a nice way to close out our first two-parter. Post-episode follow-up. These episodes seem to be splitting the good elements and the bad elements 50-50. On the one hand, the acting is great, some of the best in the series. Both episodes are well-paced, the concept of being controlled by Yeerk was realized pretty well, and there's a handful of really good scenes, especially the concluding one in Part 2. On the other hand, there are a lot of nonsensical plotting going on right here. Some things like magic andalites, magic security cameras, and magic plastic lawn chairs were pretty damn stupid. I think they went completely in the wrong direction with the scenes of Axe playing Jake, playing them for comedy instead of making them tense, will he or won't he be caught moments. Part 2 ended up being a bit better than Part 1, probably because it was smaller in scope and leaned on the strengths of the show, the acting. I've said this before and I'll say it again. The cast is the one thing this show got absolutely right. And it's too bad that the writing and directing couldn't keep up. As a whole, I give The Capture Part 1 and Part 2 a 5 out of 10.